Nobody knows who the boy was, but his ghost haunted at least one famous leader, and he may have been a forewarning to an even greater catastrophe. Welcome to American Esoterica. If history class gives you the campfire ghost story, this is your dad jumping out of the shadows at the right time to scare everyone. The essential stuff in between, the personalities, events, and other ephemera that shape our history and culture. I'm Brian Powers. The house was known for many sightings of famous ghosts over the years, but there is one in particular that stands out, if only because of its complete lack of fame. The ghost in question remains entirely unknown. And that's intriguing, mainly for the nature of the place it haunts. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. The staff called it The Thing, as Major Archibald Butt discovered. He wrote to his sister Clara about the haunting at the house where he worked in the years 1910 and 1911. The head housekeeper, Elizabeth Jaffray, had confided the information in him. Several members of the house staff had reported not just seeing or hearing something, they had been touched by the spirit. In fact, she told Butt, more staff had actually felt the ghost's touch than had actually seen it. The only staff member to have actually seen this particular ghost was the lady's maid to the lady of the house, a 33-year-old named Florence Marsh. As Jaffray had explained to Butt, one evening in the winter, Marsh had been discovered out cold. When she came to, she showed such fright that it was necessary to give her something to quiet her down before she could discuss the cause of her fainting at all. She had not heard the ghost stories which were known among some of the older servants, or so she said, and therefore her experience is not doubted by the rest. It coincided exactly with experiences which others have been said to have had from time to time, except that she not only felt the pressure on the shoulder, but saw the figure. What she described to the head housekeeper was a young boy with uncombed light hair and sad blue eyes, around 15 years old. Butt knew he had to tell what he had learned to the head of the household, and when he did, the man was livid. He banned all talk of ghosts in the house and threatened to fire any of the servants who spoke about it, lest the lady of the house and some other interested parties hear about it. The word didn't get out at the time, but Archie Butt declared to his sister that he would discover the identity of the young man and find out why he haunted this particular house. This white house. The head of the household, President William Howard Taft. Butt never discovered the identity of the apparition, but there are at least a few suspects. Starting with the most famous low-hanging fruit, young Willie Lincoln, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy of 11, passed away in 1862 after a 2-week bout of typhoid fever. As the Civil War raged around them, President Abraham Lincoln and First Lady Mary Todd Lincoln stayed by his bedside, watching another of their children slip away from them. It was the second loss of a child for the Lincolns, and their grief was insurmountable. Mary, however, began to report seeing Willie at night. His ghost would come to stand at the foot of her bed and smile at her every night. It's the first reported sighting of a ghost in the White House, and a very convincing case, since Willie was the only boy to have actually died inside the White House by that time. Another potential spirit is that of young Alexander Kerr. His story begins with a gift to President Thomas Jefferson of a Shetland ram in June of 1807 by a businessman in D.C. Jefferson was looking for ways to boost domestic manufacturing, and he hoped more wool production would do the trick. Shetland sheep were known to be docile and have very high-quality wool, and Jefferson was extremely happy with this gift, which had 4 horns. 2 of them pointed straight forward. The ram was kept out on the White House lawn, which was unfenced at the time. Unluckily for Alexander Kerr, a 9-year-old who was cutting through the president's lawn as a shortcut on the way home from school one day. As you do. Kerr was gored and clung to life for a short time before succumbing to his injuries. Even worse, the nature of the ram was already known to Jefferson. It had attacked a Revolutionary War veteran just days earlier, laying him up for weeks. The caretaker of the sheep had warned Jefferson about the ram months earlier, after it became clear the animal would attack anyone who came near. Young Mr. Kerr became the first person whose death was tied to the White House grounds, which gives him his own claim to haunt the building. Finally, there's really maybe just one more tale of heartbreak involving the death of a young boy related to the White House. 11-year-old Benjamin Pierce, Benny to his family, was unhappy, along with his mother, at his father Franklin's decision to re-enter politics after more than a decade away. The family had already lost 2 sons, which had prompted the retirement from the public view to a small law practice in New Hampshire. But party politics quietly beckoned, and Benny's dad not only was a shoo-in for nomination, he won the election in a landslide as a Northern Democrat in 1852. During the campaign, Benny had written a note to his mother saying, "I hope you won't be elected, for I should not like to be in Washington, and I know you would not either." To get some time in with his family before his inauguration, Franklin Pierce took them on a train trip to his in-laws for Christmas, and they had begun the return trip on January 3rd, 1853, when the train suddenly derailed not long after departure. The train rolled down an embankment, injuring dozens, including Franklin and his wife Jane. Only one person did not survive: little Benny, his skull crushed when the train rolled. Lost in her grief, First Lady Jane Pierce wouldn't even come to the White House for weeks, and she only wore black all the rest of her life. Even though the accident had taken place some 500 miles from the White House, Jane did everything she could to contact the boy's spirit while there, including hiring one of the famous Fox sisters to act as a medium. So the tragic loss of these 3 boys and their ties to the White House all make them potentially ghostly inhabitants. But Archie Butt was never able to solve the mystery of the mysterious ghost boy. It may be that he just didn't have enough time, however. Less than a year later, due to the stress of his job bringing about health concerns and on the advice of his doctor, Major Archibald Butt took an extended vacation in Europe. After a month there, he boarded a ship bound for New York, which struck an iceberg on the evening of April 14th, 1912. His body was never recovered. This has been American Esoterica. All sounds were made by me, Brian Powers. Did I get it wrong? Did I get it right? Just want to tell me a really good ghost story? Drop me a note. The address is yell@americanesoterica.com. More information on this show and its episodes can be found at americanesoterica.com. Thank you for listening, and God bless America.